All right, so here we are, and I am thrilled to be here today with Mary. Hi,
I'm
Mary, how
so
are you?
great, and I'm thrilled to be here with you, Manu. It's a great
Perfect.
opportunity. Fantastic.
It's it's amazing to have you back, and I say have you back because actually this week's podcast, my Spanish podcast, Emprendedores del Yoga, you were my guest in the interview in the podcast, and it was amazing to hear you talking about the science behind yoga.
Mhm.
For those of you who are watching the live, let us know if you're here. If you have any questions during the live, Mary's here, and I'm here to answer your questions. If you're watching the video, leave us a hashtags in the comment, hashtag video, so that we know that you've been watching this content. And of course, if you have any questions, we're here. We're here to support you. And today, as I was mentioning, I have Mary, and we were talking to her about the science behind yoga. Mary she wrote an amazing book called "Does Yoga Work? Answers from Science." Is that right, Mary?
Yeah,
Is that the
I
name in
just
English?
happen to have it right here.
Perfect. Perfect. And we're going to be talking about this book because it's very interesting. And of course, it's all about the science behind yoga. But when I invited today Mary, I challenge her and I say, hey, Mary, how about if you come and you talk about, of course, everything science, but also from the perspective of marketing. And here we are. First of all, for those of you uh, who don't know you, Mary, can you please let us know who you are?
Great. My name is Mary Flaherty, and I'm an avid yoga practitioner and teacher. I'm also a psychologist and a researcher. So I put together my skills in research and my interest in yoga together to look at what evidence there is about the research evidence based on solid science research on the benefits and indeed the risks of yoga to put my book together. So I will try to integrate in our conversation how knowing the science behind yoga, how it works and the benefits into marketing. I'll do my
Mhm.
best.
Yes, I'm sure you can share a lot of stories with us, Mary, because I know you've been teaching yoga for a while.
Yeah.
As we were talking before doing this live, we know that for any yoga professional today who wants to earn an income teaching yoga, it is
Mhm.
important to have a basic understanding of marketing. And I am sure that over the years, you have come to have sometimes to market yourself, right? To market
For
your
sure.
work.
For
Mhm.
sure. And also with different populations in different countries, the
Mhm.
different styles of marketing in different for different people. It's a
Mhm.
challenge, but
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, it's I think it's a challenge at the beginning, especially because I think we are not yoga teachers generally. We are not often we are not thinking about marketing. This is something that sometimes we find it's not yogic or stuff like that. But actually, I think once you learn about marketing, it has a lot to do with education,
Yeah,
and it has a lot to do with sharing your passion, sharing what you do.
yeah.
And one of the things I like to start with, because I think what's really interesting about your book is that you really get to understand the science behind yoga. We know that often our students ask us some questions, and one of the questions they ask is, why this is, for example, why yoga can help me, or why, for example, for me, Mary, as a teacher sometimes I would ask myself why when a woman is pregnant, sorry, when a woman is in their cycle,
Hmm.
they cannot do inversions, because this
Yeah.
is something that I was taught. I was just sharing the way I was taught, but I never had an answer for that question.
Hmm.
So after having the conversation with you the last week, I thought, well, this is actually really good also from this perspective, because if
Mhm.
you really know what to share, what to say when someone asks you that question,
Mhm.
according to the science,
Mhm.
then you might be able to improve to your message, your marketing
Mhm.
message in
Yeah.
general. What do you have to say about that?
Just when you mentioned that example, Manu, um, I think when we speak to our students, uh, students are coming from different backgrounds, and some students, they like to know the scientific fact. For example, can they go upside down? Can they do an inversion during their menstruation? And some prefer an answer that's more from the yoga tradition from which they come, from the guru of that tradition. But I think as teachers, it's really good for us to know both answers so that we can accommodate the needs of all students. I'll give you another example just from my own experience. One time I was teaching yoga in a small village in Ireland, and one of the students, at the end of my class, I did an om, and she told me after the class, I won't be coming back to yoga because I'm a Catholic and I feel that an om feels too much like another religion, which I would respect. But I think after looking at the research about the chants, like an om pranayama, a long om pranayama, can really help our respiratory function. It's been shown in research. So I think for me, I can understand where she's coming from in that student, but I think if I knew the science, I could then give her an answer that was more probably she would hear. You know, it would resonate with her experience if I could say, well, the OMS are nothing to do with religion, if you don't want that. I mean, it doesn't have to be at all, but it was good for her respiratory system. So I think knowing, in fact, I have another example. A friend of mine in Australia, she teaches yoga on the Barrier Reef in Queensland, and she's also a marine biologist, and she teaches Ashtanga yoga. And she told me that since reading the book, she's attracting more divers to her class because they think, because she's advertising, you know, if you practice Ujjayi breathing and other pranayama, it helps your respiratory function. And that a lot of divers are thinking when they take tours around the barrier reef to see the fish, if they can have more control of their breathing, they can stay longer. So she told me she's had really good um, success in marketing, let us say, with knowing about the extraordinary benefits to our respiratory function when people practice yoga. So
Mhm.
there's, you know, I think sort of, I suppose, if we can speak to our students in a way that they can hear us and know their interests and know where they're coming from, it helps our marketing message.
Yeah, yeah. I love those two stories. And the first one, it it's like you are, if you know the answer, or at least you know to explain both sides of the answer,
Yeah.
the answer from the guru, so to speak, or the traditional answer, and also the scientific answer, you'll be able to retain that student
Yeah.
that is asking you, that maybe wants an answer that it's different from the one that you just have, because
Yeah.
maybe you didn't have the chance to dive into the science.
And I think
And
also
yeah.
it helps our confidence as
Mhm.
teachers. I think it gives us more confidence um, to know as much as we can about that which we're sharing, which is a wonderful
Mhm.
practice. And to have, you know, to have information in both pockets, you know, in the science pocket and in the more traditional pocket. It's very useful, and it helps
Uh,
us ourselves.
Absolutely. I am with you 100%. Me, myself, as a teacher, sometimes I was very devoted to that lineage, to that tradition that they would tell me, do this in that way. But at some point, I also started to question myself. I was
Yes.
starting to question my teaching. And I think
Mm.
that actually at the beginning can be a little bit scary, because you're like, oh
Mm.
my God, I have a lot of questions about things. But
Mm.
eventually, actually, it's really helpful.
Yes, I think so. It makes the practice richer for both the teacher and the student.
Exactly, exactly. Then the other example that you were sharing, I also loved it. Oh my God,
I
I
have,
want to get that job from that yoga teacher teaching in the
I
coral
have
reef.
another example. Yeah, I have another example, but it's hard to stop me. I have another example, Manu. One
Please.
time again in Australia, I was asked to teach yoga for the Water Corporation. So it's like the state of Western Australia, the water company that provides the water to the whole state. So I asked the guy who asked me to come teach yoga, why did he pick yoga to teach to the employees during the lunchtime break? And he said, "Oh, I heard it's good, and they didn't. I heard Pilates was good, but I found you, and you're a yoga teacher, so here we are." And at the time, I was very happy teaching the employees during lunchtime. But now that I know more about the science, about the scientific evidence, I think I could have shared with this guy, like somebody in a management position in a company, that it was a very good investment on their part, because it's not surprising that companies like Google and Forbes and Facebook, they offer yoga classes because on two fronts. One is it's been shown in a lot of big research projects and in meta studies that employees who do yoga, it reduces their stress levels, which is a huge advantage, because apparently stress is one of the main reasons for reducing productivity and also for absenteeism. So this causes a company a lot of money. In fact, there was a study done in the States where they took an insurance company in the States. There was 300 employees, and they divided them randomly into a group that did yoga, a group that did mindfulness-based stress reduction, so like mindfulness, meditation, and a group that did coaching, were coached and went to the gym for 3 months. And then they compared them before and after, so they were all standardized. And then they measured them with what's called a perceived stress scale. And a perceived stress scale is a subjective report of my stress levels. And the two groups, the yoga group and the meditation group, after 3 months, their perceived stress level reduced by 8 points. The group that had the coaching and the gym reduced by 2 points. But the important thing is that every point that is reduced, it means that the company is saving $100 per person.
Wow.
So this study was done specifically to see the cost effectiveness of doing yoga in the workplace, because obviously you have to convince, them that it works. The other thing in companies is that it reduces back pain. And back pain is a big problem when we sit at a desk all day, which is kind of now normal life. So for companies, the reduction of back pain and the reduction of stress is a big thing. So I wish I had known that when I was working at the Water Corporation, because I think we'd have had bigger classes. We've had more classes. More people would have done. Their bosses, their CEOs would have encouraged them to do it more. So again, I think knowing some of the facts from the research helps to convince particularly a population who's looking at the cost effectiveness of what they're investing in, which is important.
Yeah, there you go. Any yoga teacher who is here in this community watching this video, if you are planning to teach corporations, it's important. As the same example that we shared before, when someone wants an answer that comes more from science, and when someone asks you something related to yoga, you want to be able to meet them where they are. And it's the same with this example. Like if someone from a corporation is like a CEO, someone who doesn't know much about yoga, they only know that yoga is good. But if you talk to them in their language, this comes back to the question that we are talking about, which is it will help you improving that marketing message. I love that, Mary. And one of the things I loved about your book because you sent me a copy of your book in Spanish, and oh my gosh, I was just like, when I received, I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. My pleasure.
I've been I've been reading the book. I haven't finished it yet because it's packed. It's really full of useful information. And we are talking about yoga teachers here, maybe who wants to go to work with corporations, and there are so many different examples of niches, people that you can teach, and so on. And one of the things that I found super interesting in your book from the perspective of marketing is that you have so many examples from so many different populations dealing with different problems. They have different pain points. And also you share you share information in how in each and every of those problems, yoga may be able to help. And that is amazing. That is good.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a great privilege we have to teach yoga.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great practice, I think, as yoga teachers that we have to offer to people.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I know you've been teaching yoga for a while, Mary. I know you are a seasoned teacher. You've been teaching for a while now. And I know you have also been teaching for specific and different audiences over the years, children, older people, sport people. And um, how teaching specific audiences can and how okay, here's my question. How would you teach different or specific audiences, and how would you market to yoga to them differently?
Well, again, coming from the research,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, depending on your audience, some teachers will be teaching a general audience, so maybe usually fairly fit, generally females, and but in among that audience, there may be people that who have specific ailments that we may not be aware of. But if we're in a situation where we're, for example, targeting teaching children, I would say in terms of teaching children, again, meeting them where they are, making it playful, making it fun, making it something that they don't have to do, but that they want to do. So incorporating whatever ways possible to do that. But in terms of marketing to children, again, I have an example from my life. I have a friend, she's from Sri Lanka, and she's very keen on having her son being very well rounded. And I remember when she read the book, my book about the research on children, um, because the research shows that doing yoga with children and mindfulness and breathing helps children, like when we're talking about children from age 3 to 18, so a broad span, they can regulate their emotions better with doing yoga. They can reduce their anxiety in that way, because a lot of children are very anxious. It's a fact. So it can help with their anxiety. It can even help improve their performance scores in school, which is amazing. But so does exercise. So notwithstanding, it can help reduce bullying. So I think if, in the case of when I told my Sri Lankan friend the facts that it can increase performance in exams, it can help reduce anxiety, and it can help the child to be able to emotionally regulate better in situations where there's conflict in a schoolyard. And now her son is now doing yoga once a week. So I think we've got to, or we can talk to teachers. If we're in a school situation, I think having the facts, the knowledge that these are objectively measured variables that help the child. I mean, it's kind of, as we say, a no-brainer. It's a really
Right.
wonderful way for the child to give them that gift. And another thing on that one actually is we call it in English, it's kind of an American phrase, the basketball culture. Yoga is not in the basketball culture, so it's not competitive. And very often in school, when children do a sport that's competitive, when school finishes, they don't do that sport anymore. Whereas yoga has been shown that kids will continue to do yoga after they leave school, because there's no competition. They're not competing with themselves nor with anybody else. So it tends to be a gift that they get in for the long run, rather than for only the time when there's games and there's competitions. So it's very very good in that way. I just, when you mentioned here another specific audience, the older people. Can I share a story?
Of course, please.
One time I was teaching. I wanted to teach yoga to older people. It's called the University of the Third Age. It's an international virtual university that's all free for older people over 65, and they can study maths or biology or Spanish or yoga, whatever. So I went along to try and advertise yoga. This is many years ago. And at the time I thought, oh, what shall I tell them? I told them it'll be good fun, but that's very vague. If I was doing it now, Manu, I would have research behind me, because the research, I could tell these older people, it's going to improve your balance. It's going to improve your bone density if you keep doing it, and it's a bit strong, you know. And that will also reduce your chances of a fall, which is after 65, the chances of a fall increase sort of exponentially. It's going to improve your cognitive abilities. It's going to and help to ward off Alzheimer's disease. It's going to help you with your flexibility. It's going to help you with your perhaps depression and anxiety, which is quite common among older people. So I think if I was now going along to this University of the Third Age with my come do yoga, I'd have a lot more facts that I think would resonate with the people to help them, encourage them to do it. And in fact, they loved it. I mean, actually, on that one, another thing I would say in terms of marketing and continuing yoga with not just with the older people, with pretty much all groups, especially specific groups like pregnant women or sports people, is to try and create a community in some way, because my experience and also the research shows that if a student is finding themselves in a community when they go to yoga class, and the teacher's responsibility, it's the teacher's responsibility to create that community, they tend to go back to the class. They tend to continue, because now they have another reason to gel their experience. It's got a social aspect, which is also really important.
It's really, really important. I'm with you on that 100%. The community aspect is super important. And I also love, how you were talking about how elderly people, they may be very receptive to that message of bone density or avoiding falls, because these are their pain points. Now, and you talk to those pain points. Now, I know that some yoga teachers, they feel that this is not ethic. Some yoga teachers, they feel that talking to people's pain is not something good. Actually, what I always tend to say is that it's not about, making people feel bad about themselves because you are talking to their problems. But it's about connecting with them. It's about more that they find a message with which they resonate with. They find that you are talking to something that emotionally it's significant for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important.
We have Facebook user here, and he's saying, "Good job. Thank you so much, Facebook user." If you have any questions, please see that I've left a link to StreamYard. If you click the link and give permission to Facebook to share your name, we will be able to see who you are and to share any questions you may have. And I want to continue, Mary. We are almost wrapping there, but I want to finish up with one question that I find super, super interesting. And it's, when are students more amenable to hear about new ventures?
Well, again, from the research, we know that after a student has practiced a yoga class, particularly if they've been practicing for a while, it's not their first class. After we practice yoga for half an hour, our feel-good hormones like our oxytocin, our serotonin, which is one that makes us feel uplifted, our GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that helps us to relax. These neurotransmitters are circulating our system, and our cortisol, which is our stress hormone, actually goes down. So these are physiological changes. So when I started teaching yoga, I'd always announce at the beginning of a class, I have a workshop coming at the weekend, and da 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 da. And after I learned the research, I realized you don't do it before the class, you do it after the class, when the people are in a good space, physiologically and psychologically, because they're more amenable to take the message. They're more amenable to remember the message if there's an upcoming, workshop or a special class, because they're more open. When we're relaxed, we learn better and we're more open to new ideas. So if you're marketing your upcoming workshop, wait till after you've done a nice shavasana and the feel-good hormones they're filling the cocktail of each student's system.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. Before we go, Mary, I would love if you can tell us a little bit more about your book. For anyone who is watching this video, I left in the description a link to Mary's book in English. Maybe you can tell us where we can find you, or maybe you can tell us a little bit about your book. Where can we find it?
Okay. Anybody can find me on Instagram at Mary Does Yoga. I'd be delighted to hear from you. And my book is Does Yoga Work? Answers from Science. And if you prefer it in Spanish, I don't have a copy here. This is the cover. It's Funciona el Yoga, Respuestas de la Ciencia. You can find it on Amazon. I believe it's also on the book depository. So it's there in the 2 languages. I've tried to make the book very easy to read. Even though a lot of people are off put by the word science, I tried to make it very digestible. And I've also put from each problem, be it diabetes or cancer, I've tried to show how the science evidence shows how yoga helps those ailments. But I've also given tips for teachers if they're teaching, for example, breast cancer survivors, or they're teaching people who've just recovered from a heart attack. So I've given little tips that are based on the science. So it helps the teachers to have a toolbox for their specific audience. So I think in that way, it can be, I hope that it can be a useful toolbox for teachers of all groups.
I can tell what I've read so far about your book, the Spanish version. Yes, it's really thorough, and there is a lot of useful information. And yes, I think it was a good point that you say that you try to make it digestible, you try to make it even fun, because I love seeing all your drawings. I'm also like very creative person, and I know you are too, and you've been using all your drawings, sharing them all along the book, just to make it a little bit more fun, because we know that yes, science, we Western minds, we love science, we want to know the why behind things, but sometimes we are also, when we step into science and into research, we are like, oh my God, this is just too much.
Too much.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
Well, Mary, thank you so much. Again, it's been a pleasure having this conversation today in English with you, and I hope you get back sometimes to our community, Marketing for Yoga Teachers, and I will let you know if there are any questions about this live.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much. My pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much. All the best.
Thank you.